So this is my new Zacklift Genesis 30-ton wrecker. It can tow big trucks, it can lift heavy things way up in the air, and best of all, it can be completely detached from the truck in 10 minutes so I can go hook onto my low bed or any other semi-trailer just like a normal truck could. And this is the last piece of the puzzle, so I can finally explain to you what I've been doing the last few months with getting this truck, getting that trailer, this unit, and how they all fit together to make one very versatile and cost-effective business. And you can finally maybe see what I've been thinking this whole time. So Zacklift is a company that's been around for 40 plus years at least, actually maybe more than that. They've always made these hydraulic underreaches that go on as an addition to they started with the older home style trucks that had the sling tow unit in the back, and they made hydraulic underreach conversions. Then they made the fifth wheel attachment versions of them that go right back into the fifth wheel of a truck, just come down and out to be a hydraulic underreach on a normal fifth wheel tractor. And for 40 years, that's what they specialized in. They made their product, they made it really well, and they sold a lot of them. Like I said, in the detachable hydraulic underreach market, there are probably more Zacklifts out there than all the rest, maybe even combined. They very well proven product as far as that hydraulic underreach goes. Only issue is kind of just rested on that for 40 years. And it was a successful product. I mean, the company's still going 40 years later with something they designed that long ago. That kind of proves how good it was. But about 5 years ago, a guy named Matt took over the company. He's a welder, fabricator, engineer, very sharp guy. And he, as you can see, has focused on bringing Zacklift into the modern era of wreckers, and that he definitely did. So this unit here, the Genesis, like I said, 30-ton wrecker boom. Of course, that's retracted. It's got two 30,000-pound winches on it, which when they're both pulling at full force, 30 tons, 60,000 pounds. At full extension, that boom is rated for 22,000 pounds, has the two lines off of it. The underreach here, which is a long underreach there, at full extension, it's rated to lift 16,000 pounds of axle weight, which is a lot. Brought back in here, retracted up close, 35,000 pounds of axle weight it's rated to lift, meaning a tandem axle truck that's fully loaded to its max legal weight of 34,000 pounds of the tandem axles. This is rated to pick up a fully loaded truck from the rear, all within its ratings, which is very impressive. This one has the two hydraulic stiff legs on the back here. And they've got, their tie back points at the bottom, mid-span tie back points. You got your safety chain pockets in here, and then frame mount tie back points there. Your electrical off the back, air supply and service air for when you're towing vehicles or trailers, and then an extra air port for just doing auxiliary air stuff there. So like I showed in that little clip here, this unit is detachable. These legs right here that are stood upright right now, you pull this pin, slide them out, flip them 180, stick them back in, and then crank handle right here for your jack. Lower your jack down. Those are your front legs. Outriggers are the back legs there. And the process to detach this takes about 10 minutes. First thing you do is loosen this bolt on each side in the rear here with an impact gun. It lowers this chain slot down, which loosens this chain. It goes down through the shock tower around the frame, grabs the back of the frame here on each side with a frame hook, and that holds the back end of the unit to the frame on each side. Then you pull your two main pins here at the front adapter plate. Then you disconnect your glad hands right here, your electric and your hydraulic, just like with any other trailer. No difference there, except for this one has 4 hydraulic lines instead of 2. We'll talk about why in just a second. And then after that, you just pull your fifth wheel pin and drive out from under it, just like any other trailer. In all reality, the only extra steps over a standard trailer is those 2 pins right there, which pull right out, the 2 frame clamps at the back, and lowering these outriggers, which of course you use your hydraulics for, so make sure you do that before you disconnect. But the rest of it is landing gear, fifth wheel pin, air, electric, hydraulic connections, just like any other trailer. 10 minutes this whole thing comes off, and I'm a fifth wheel tractor. They can go hook to my low bed, or 10 minutes I can unhook my low bed and be back to a 30-ton heavy wrecker. That is incredible. If you're wondering, yes, you can still tow normal fifth wheel style trailers with the wrecker body on if you need to tow one away or something like that, by either chain slinging it like this or using the fifth wheel attachment that actually goes onto here, then goes underneath and locks the kingpin. But I just have it chain slinged right here, and that's totally legit to go down the road like that. Obviously you wouldn't want to be like too crazy loaded, nothing, but it's how you can move trailers and haul them down the road with the wrecker. Oh, and these landing gear here, you don't have to keep them pinned into the unit here. You can take them off, go put them in the barn, in the shop, corner of the yard, whatever, and then only use them when you want to detach. You don't have to have them ride around with you, but if you're going to be out detaching somewhere, you can take them along. I think I am going to keep these out, and I'm going to build another bar here with that same pinhole in it that can mount some other attachments, like my trailer hitch attachment or stuff like that. And that's just another place I can store some things, which would be really handy. Now when you pull this off, the only thing that remains on your truck is this bracket right here, from here down. So it sticks up maybe a little over a foot, but it's so far ahead of your fifth wheel, no trailer will ever interfere with that. It's just fine right there. And you see on the front here, it's got these big reinforced collars that the main frame horns of the Zacklift Genesis unit come into. And that's what holds the front of this down, because obviously the tow truck is a teeter-totter when you load weight on that. It's locked into the fifth wheel in the center, which would pull up on the front here, so those help hold down. But then Zacklift also has at the back, where those frame chains were, these adjustable plates here that sit on the back of your frame and cradle it, and then are locked in by that, so that the load is actually locked into 5 different points. The back of your frame on each side there, the fifth wheel, and then those 2 points right there. And if you notice, those cylinders go right onto the kingpin, so the leverage force is still off the back of the truck like any tow truck is, but all the weight of that boom is being put onto the chassis right on your fifth wheel, which is what is designed to take all the weight on a chassis. So very smart placement there. Now the 4 hydraulic line 2 pump system I talked about in a previous video. We see there's 2 big old monster winches up there. And is this 100% necessary? No. Does it make it 100% better? Yes. You see on my little Ford wrecker here, I have 2 winches, 2 lines, 1 hydraulic pump. So if I'm pulling along with 1 winch and I start pulling with the other, it takes power away from the first winch, because the same flow is feeding both of them. So obviously as you mess with one, it has an effect on the other in speed, power, all that stuff, which is okay. I mean, you can definitely work with it, but it does affect the other winch whenever you do anything with the other winch. Now with the Genesis unit, you have 2 separate hydraulic pumps feeding 2 separate pressures and returns that are completely independent of each other. It can be plumbed where it's 1 main feed line, 1 main return line, but this is very much the recommended and preferred setup, because this side over here feeds 1 of the winches and then feeds the stiff legs on the back, the outriggers. This other pump over here feeds the other winch and then your boom functions. So they've split up the hydraulic system, and what that means is when you're winching, I can be doing something with 1 winch and then stop, reel in, reel out, little, lot, whatever I want to do with the second winch, and the first winch is 100% unaffected. Now to explain to you why that's such an advantage from the other side of the truck, to change the scene up a little bit and re-engage the audience here, if I am, say, rolling a truck over with 1 line and using the other to catch it, say I've got my roll going, it's all going just like I want, and I start adjusting my catch line. Well, that would have an effect on the speed and power of my roll line, which could either make it slam over before I'm ready or stop and kind of fall back down. With this setup, no matter what I do with the second line, that first line I have 100% control of and nothing changes. Or say I'm pulling a truck up a bank or out of a ditch sideways, and I have 1 line going to the front end of it, 1 line going to the back end of it, and I need all the pulling force I can get. Well, both lines, or both winches, are running at their full power at the same time. With that wrecker there, I can pull with both winches, but both are at a reduced power because they're sharing the load. And then if there's variances in the load on either one, because the front end of the vehicle is usually a lot heavier than the rear end and resistance coming up the slope, if one encounters more resistance and takes more of power to run, it will have an effect on the other. These two aren't going to care what the other does. They're still going to run at their 100% performance. The only issue with having a two pump system that's separated completely independent like that is most hydraulic trailers, not this one because it has its own engine in it, like sliding axle landau trailers and hydraulic low beds and walking floors, belt trailers, all that stuff, they obviously use one system. And kind of the beauty of how this is all laid out is each of these pumps runs at 12 gallons per minute. Most hydraulic trailers call for the 20 to 24 gallon a minute range. So if you see here, big couplers and lines here, smaller ones here, diverter valve here. So I can, as I said in a previous video there, I can combine the pressure side of this system with the much bigger line pressure side of this system, and I can put 24 gallons a minute out of one system and back into one system, and this system over here goes dead because everything's combined into this one to run a single pump or single trailer, single function, single circuit, how would you say that? Single hydraulic circuit system. But like I said, if you had to, if you already had trucks set up, you wanted to put this unit on, you don't want to go to a dual pump system, this can be plumbed in a way that it runs off of just one circuit and one pump, but you have to factor in your winches will have an effect on each other when they're working. Still totally usable, you can get the job done. I mean, this one's been doing it for 30 years like that, but this is better. So if we open up some boxes, you see I've got a full fork set in here in a, well, it's hard to say now, but there's fork holder back here that all these forks sit in. Got the 12-inch extensions, a light bar. I've got them out here, you know, the wireless light bar that goes on the back of the vehicle you're towing. All that comes with it. I do got to load these boxes a whole lot more. These are like a kind of a gull wing box, so they completely open up where you've got full access, but if it's raining or anything like that out, you see it still completely covers your box, so it's not raining inside on all your stuff. Now if you look up here in the top of the boxes, I still got to pull off all the protective plastic they leave on to protect everything while they build it, but it's got LED light strips in the top of all the boxes that come on when you open them up and light up all your stuff when you're working. I got a lot of organizing and figuring out how I want to lay all these out, but there's a lot of space there. And then here in the rear box on the passenger side, we have all of your controls with pressure gauges for each side of the hydraulic system. So one pump is this gauge here, the other pump's this gauge here. You can see, like I said, stiff legs and one of the winch are over on this circuit, and then all the other winch and all the boom functions are on this circuit. And then you have free spool for both winches right here from the side, and then you've got wireless controls that run all of your boom and underlift functions except the stiff legs. So those are kind of like a set it and there you are type of thing. So that is super handy, and still, like I said, got a ton of room to fill up in here and figure out how I'm gonna lay all this out and then see what I want to do for some different boxes right here. Somebody asked in one of the Instagram posts here, and yes, these boxes still do open up just fine. I forgot I had my mud flaps stuffed in them. They still open just fine, are still usable with the body on here, so that's not a big deal. So now we're going to go over how these three pieces all fit together to make easily the most versatile for the cost business setup I've ever had, and how we put this whole package into one. And then after that, I'm going to fold all this back up and show you what I think is the most important part of this unit specifically. So it really all started back about 2 years ago. Collins Manufacturing, who makes, the dollies for light duty tow trucks, and they make toolboxes, some other cool stuff like that. They invited me out to the Baltimore Tow Show to be part of their unveiling of the new Collins G7 50th anniversary dolly, since I was a big part of the prototype testing of that for I think a year and a half before that. We tested those things. And so I went out to the tow show, was part of their unveiling of that new product, and that happened to be when Zacklift was there unveiling the very first Genesis unit. And I got to go check it out, look at it. It was a beautiful unit on a truck out of Washington that they had brought out there. I'll steal some of their photos and put in here. And I really liked what I saw. And it went into the checklist up here of stuff to have one day. So that's set in my mind for the last, almost 2 years. And I'm pointing you this way now because that's prettier to look at than I am while I tell you the rest of this. A few months ago, actually got in contact with the owner of Zacklift. And David and I, who was helping me film stuff over the summer, He went off to college, that's why he's no longer here. Me and him went up to Cle Elum, Washington, where they build these things, to see the unit in person, not this particular one, a previous one, and see their facility, what they build, how they do it, and what all they have going on up there. And we were impressed. Even David was impressed, and he didn't even know anything about tow trucks, but he still thought it was really cool. We talked with the owner of Zacklift there. We came to a deal on me getting one of these, and of course, as you can probably tell by that name right there, we worked a deal that we think is going to be very, very good for both of us. So this is a component of this is promotion, and another component of it is I'm expanding my business, getting back into the heavier side of things with some much more capable equipment. Win-win for everybody. So I essentially placed my order, and then for the last probably 2 months, I think, they have been building this unit right here, which I think we figured is unit number 6 or 7 of the Genesis. But it's the third one to ever be mounted on a truck and go to work. There's 2 of them already out there on trucks. The one's been on that one truck for about 2 years. Another one I believe has been on a truck for about a year. This is the third one to ever be mounted to a truck. The other ones in between those numbers, they just built and sent out to dealers so that when people call to want to buy one of these things, they can simply get it picked up from a dealer or shipped right to them instead of waiting a year or 2 years like pretty much every other tow equipment manufacturer right now. So that's why mine is number 6 or 7, but is number 3 that's on a truck. Smart move on their part, I think, because wait times on stuff like this is just a killer in business. Like, if I were to go order a brand new wrecker from pretty much any other brand right now and put money down, it'll probably be 2 years before I see it, and that's a hard way to run a business. So anyway, once that order was placed, I went out searching for a truck with the specs to fit this unit and make use of it, but also be able to pull a low bed practically. So this truck is just shy of a 280-inch wheelbase. It's very heavy on the front axle just as it sits, which is good because, you know, tow trucks are a teeter-totter when you're picking something up there. So the more weight you have up there and the farther it is away, the better towability you have. This is on the shorter end of a heavy wrecker. This one, like I said, just shy of 280 on the wheelbase. 300 or so would be better, but then I'm too long to go into the mountain areas I want to go with the low bed hooked up. Now granted, most people don't have the 65-foot length restrictions that I have in the areas I want to go, so they can go longer on the truck, still pull a longer trailer and be completely legal, no big deal at all. But for just me and the mountain areas I want to run in, I needed to try to keep that number really tight. Now obviously you can see this could be even a little shorter, but the shorter you go, the less capable it is as a tow truck because of that counterweight effect. So shorter would have been better when hooked to a trailer, but longer is better as a tow truck. This was my happy medium for my specific use in areas I want to run in, and I think it should work really well because it made this as long as it could possibly be and still be under the length limit with that right there. So then, once that truck was purchased, I went out searching for a low bed. And I knew the specs that I wanted and figured with that truck were out there. I just had to find one, and I wanted to find a used one, which made it would have been really easy to just go buy a brand new one and order it to those specs, but I wanted to find a used one that met those specs because in all reality for me, this is going to sit in the yard 95% of the time, and that's the configuration that's going to be most often. So it didn't really make sense to go out and spend $130,000 on a trailer that's going to sit in the yard. I spent enough over there. Now to make finding the right trailer even harder, especially in the used market, I very specifically wanted a folding gooseneck instead of removable gooseneck, which is not nearly as common. I could have found a ton of them out there that were a removable gooseneck, but I wanted a folder. And you might start to be seeing why here. But if you're not, in the trucking world, it is not uncommon at all for tows to go very long distance, like states away, because most companies, especially larger fleets, have their own maintenance and repair shops, and they don't want their trucks, when they break down, to go to a dealer states away that turns out not to be so great and ends up holding their truck for months of downtime and then not even fixing it or half-ass fixing it. You know, those things kind of happen, and I really sympathize with that thought right about now. But the problem with going long distance with a wrecker is you are almost guaranteed to come back home empty, because the chances of finding a heavy tow going back the other way at the time you need to do it is pretty much zero. So to increase your chances of being able to find a backhaul and make money going the other way as well, you put it on a trailer and you haul it down or out or up or wherever it's got to go on a trailer, because then it's much easier to find a load going the other way and make that trip really worth it. Now let's see how this works in real life. Say I get a call for a truck that's broke down, you know, within an hour or two of here, like how it normally goes, and they want it towed out to Idaho. Well, I head out in my wrecker, it's broke down on the side of the road, I get it picked up, hook it up to my wrecker, I come back home and I can back it right onto this trailer while it's hooked to the wrecker. I got this nice smooth, look at that, you just back right on up here, no problem at all. Then I pull right over there, I drop my legs and my landing gear, pull my connections, unhook from that, this trailer picks itself up and I hook right back into it, and that process took 10 minutes. But if I had a removable gooseneck trailer, I couldn't do that because the gooseneck has to be in the fifth wheel of the truck to remove, which means my wrecker can't be in the fifth wheel of the truck, which means how do I load the dead truck on my trailer? Now, a bigger outfit with multiple trucks, that's not a big deal because you could use a different one to load the dead truck on the trailer, whatever. But for me, I wanted this package to be completely self-sustaining and work together. Yes, I have that one for now, but the plan is for that one to go away. It might stay, I don't know. But I'm planning for that one to go away and this be primary because it's way more capable. That's also why I searched for a specific trailer that had such a small drop to it. And granted, a low bed is going to sit another 6-8 inches lower than that, which gives you more height clearance. But in order to be short enough for the length restrictions I want, a big truck or an RV or something like that, a bus, isn't going to sit completely down in that lowered part. It's going to have to get backed up over the axles. And on an RV, a bus, something like that, all that overhang off the back is going to hit the tires and axles before the wheels get to your ramps to go up on top. This one, such a nice smooth thing all the way on the top. I can back it on there easy as can be, no problem. Yes, it sits a little higher than your standard low bed, but it's still a lot lower than like a Landauer sliding axle trailer. So for me and what I wanted, this was my unicorn perfect trailer. It's kind of funny in the comments when I was having the trouble finding the right trailer and all that, and some of them turned out to be a dud. I had more than a few people, like either email or in the comments, jump all over me of like, you don't know what you're doing, you never get the trailer second, you always spec out the trailer first, then you spec the truck to match the trailer, not the other way around. And it's like, well, no, you see, I actually knew what I was doing the whole time. Spec'd this first because this is the primary piece, and then the rest needed to follow what worked with this, not the other way around. So I knew what I was doing. I had a plan the whole time, and it finally all worked out. Remember, we still got to get to the most important part of this. It's coming, I promise. But this package right here is my most cost-effective setup I can get, because now I have a low bed tractor and a 30-ton heavy wrecker with only one truck, the cost of one truck, the insurance of one truck, the maintenance of one truck, registration of one truck, which brings your operating costs drastically lower over having a separate low bed tractor and a separate heavy wrecker, especially with the cost of trucks and wreckers these days. So for a small operator like me, this could not make more sense. For a big operator with a whole lot of trucks, if you're reducing the number of trucks you have to do the same jobs, again, it's just, that's a win all the way around. All right, let's bring our boom in. Oh, I gotta show you these hooks. Hold on. So check out the hook mounts that Zacklift has here. A lot of times it's like a pocket with a spring in it, and you hook onto the spring, and then that holds some tension on your cables while you're going down the road. But what happens, the guys will forget to unlatch them and pull the boom out or whatever, and then that spring gets stretched out, broke, whatever. These here, if you look, they're like little, those grabber claws right here, and they're in this tube. And when they're in that tube, they're locked in position. They can't open up. Let me lock the winches in so I can show you how this works. So say I want to pull my hook out, I just winch in, and see this swings forward. You see there's a spring down there, and as it pulls out of the pocket, now these can open up and releases the hook. Now what happened here, you couldn't see that fast, is this was folded down. The same spring that holds it into the pocket also brings it back up to the stowed position on the boom. Same thing, if you forget, not paying attention, and you just start booming out with your winches locked in, obviously it's going to pull your cables tight. You're not going to hurt anything because the hook will pull right out of it, and this will all go back to the stowed position. That's a clever little tricky thing I really like that they did. And since this is a bolt-on plate here that has these, they sell this component individually, and you can put it on any wrecker from a light duty small one to any of the other brand of big wreckers. So this is a separate piece that you can buy for any truck, and saves your cables, saves jamming your winches, and saves ripping those springs out all the time. Pretty nifty. See, once you got everything folded back up, you just put a little tension on there. The spring holds everything. You've got tension on your line, so not bouncing down the road. Good to go. So we'll bring our underreach up. Actually, let's bring it down. One big thing about this setup is it has negative tilt, which means it goes below center, and then it goes way out there. Reach out back under the axle, just about anything. Okay, let's bring it up and I'll show you the fancy stuff. So we're all folded back up. Almost, I forgot the stiff legs. Gotta remember that before I drive off. Whoa! That's a big old fire jet. It's a DC-10, I believe? Something like that. That's cool. And it's red and white, just like my truck. And just like my other truck. So, what impressed me most, even from the first time I went up to the Zacklift shop there and looked at everything in person, is I walked all around that shop looking at stuff, and I weld and fabricate, not on this level, but even just stuff sitting on the shelf, stuff sitting in the corner, stuff being built for customers. I did not see even one iffy looking weld. They are just absolute perfection all the way around this whole thing. And how they do it at the Zacklift shop is they have other welders who are all like top of the line welders. Like if you're not, you don't make the cut there. All of these components, this is one component, that's another component, this boom structure is another, the frame is another. If you look, you would never see it normally, but if you really look, there's initials stamped into every component. And that is the initials of the welder who welded that component. So this entire main boom structure here was welded by Josh. And Josh knows what he's doing. And these are all hand welds. There's not a machine weld on this entire thing. All the guys there actually know what they're doing. So from the very beginning, from the machining, like they machine all these parts in-house. They have all the CNC machines. All of this stuff is machined and built in-house, welded together, fabricated in-house, painted in-house. This unit is completely built from the very scratch in Cle Elum, Washington there. And what impressed me was the attention to detail from that very first machinist who does a whole bunch of stuff with numbers and machines and computers that I don't understand, to the assembly guys who do the final assemble on the unit itself. The pride in the work they have to even put their initials on everything they do, the pride in the work that comes out of that shop is incredible. Like, they assembled all this, and this whole unit was assembled when I got there the first day to get this installed. It was all assembled. I thought it looked great. And then they finished putting the boxes on, they finished bolting everything together, and I thought, cool, get ready to throw it on the truck. And they started masking off all the hydraulic lines, the wrap on the side of the boxes, the taillight housings, all that. So they started masking all that off. I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, oh, we got to paint it still. I'm like, looks pretty good to me. And like, they're like, no, we're going to do a final paint now it's all assembled. That way you're an even color all the way through, because obviously this gets painted at a different time than that, and a different time than that. And every part is painted completely individually, and then the whole unit is painted as a whole afterwards. And now you get completely even coverage in every nook and cranny because it was done unassembled. and then even color through the whole thing because it was done all at once. Extra steps there, but I mean, the proof is in the pudding here. Then once that was done and I came back the next morning, I thought it looked even better. And I thought, okay, cool, get ready to throw it on the truck. And that whole time they were working on getting the truck set up, and I'm gonna go through the whole process of what it takes to install one of these here in just a second as well. Yeah, it's ready to go on the truck, great. And then they started unbolting it, and I'm like, what are you doing now? Like, they started taking all the bolts out. And what they do after it's painted, they remove every single fastener that's exposed on this thing, all of them, and they replace them with a brand new grade 8 fastener, so that you don't have any painted over Allen sockets, any painted over bolts that, you know, that paint line's gonna crack when you take it off there. You put a wrench on, now it's all scratched up. They removed every bolt and replaced it with a brand new one. And my first thought, I gotta be honest here, was they're doing that to my unit because, you know, we agreed on this whole promotion deal, and it's, you know, kind of a show off for them unit as well, so they're kind of taking a few extra steps. But then they were building another one of these Genesis units right behind mine. It's this all black one that's going to go to a dealer to be a dealer stock, and they were doing the same thing to that one, replacing all the hardware with brand new after assembly. Like, that attention to detail is very important to me, because if they're putting that much attention to every little detail of it, the main function and structure of this thing, you know, they put a lot into it, and that gives me hope that this thing's going to last and be a very worthwhile unit to have and own and run. So I could not be more impressed with the build quality of this. It's probably the nicest build quality from beginning to end on any unit I've seen. Now, when it comes to what modifications you have to do to, like, mount this on a truck and make it functional, it's really pretty simple. The PTO we went over in a previous video, setting up the PTO. The unit itself, the first thing they do, they remove the rear cross member out of the truck, and they put their own cross member in there that sits up farther, so that down tube of the boom there can be tucked up in closer to the axles, which just gets everything farther forward and more weight transfer to the front axle. Once that's done, they start doing a whole lot of measuring, and this is the part that how long it takes kind of depends on how your truck is configured. If my tanks were a little farther back or a little farther forward, they would have only had to pull the tank off or only the toolbox, but because on my truck this bracket lands right between the two, they remove the tank and the toolboxes and start drilling for that front mounting bracket to go in right there. Then once that's all bolted and installed, they remount the tanks, remount the boxes, get all that stuff bolted back up. Then once it's on the truck, locked into the fifth wheel, set in place, this rear guide bracket here and the spacer plates that are needed for your height of fifth wheel and frame all get put on, and now this unit can sit on the truck locked into 5 different places. After that, it's just some buttoning up the details, hooking up all your hydraulics, making sure everything works, going through a final greasing of the unit, touching up all the little stuff, and test running the whole thing, and it is done. That is installed. It's really a very simple process. It just depends on how much stuff you have bolted to the side of your truck on how long it's going to take. See how smooth that was? That is good engineering and a good setup on the truck. They took the time to make sure this was installed correctly. How easy that clicked in and smooth just goes to show how well they have that system dialed in. Now, in the last video I showed you the Zacklift display truck. That's kind of the next step down from this unit on there, the fifth wheeler with the D-boom added on and stiff links added on. And well, we took this truck out front after it was done and took some pictures and stuff. I realized something. So I just realized we kind of have all 3 levels of the hydraulic underreach setup from Zacklift here in the lot right now. This is just the standard hydraulic underreach, the fifth wheeler all by itself. This is like a, I think they said 20-year-old one that's been running forever. It's here for just kind of a refresh, but 20 years old, still working. It is just the hydraulic underreach, no winch, no stiff legs, toolboxes to carry your stuff on a nice long truck here, so it keeps the front end down with some counterweight since you know you're a teeter-totter. Then from that, we go over here to the Zacklift truck. And on this truck, right here, if you look, the main base of this is exactly what's on the back of that, just with some updates that have happened over the years. Goes up into the fifth wheel, and like I said, you can kind of like Legos or the erector set of trucks, you can add the winch to the top if you want some recovery ability to it. You want a little more recovery ability, you can add the stiff legs, and if you want even more, you can add the D-boom. And this, like I said, single line D-boom, but it comes in a twin line also. And then this entire unit, toolboxes, boom, wheel lift, everything comes off all as one unit, and you're a fifth wheel tractor. Then if you want to step it up a notch from there to the ultimate recovery ability, I know we're right next to the road, it's the Genesis, and this is the unit I have. It's detached from my truck right now. Just we're test fitting everything, but this is the 30-ton twin line boom, big underreach. This is the ultimate in recovery ability, but it's also the heaviest. So if you're trying to legally scale heavier loads across state lines, or you don't want to get permits, anything like that, something like that setup over there, super lightweight, can carry a whole lot legally. Want a little more recovery ability, you go down there adding the stiff legs, the winch, the D-boom. You want the most recovery ability, but again, the heaviest unit, it's the Genesis. Now they do have one step even lower than that, which is the easy tow, and unfortunately there was not an easy tow there at the time for me to show you, so I'll just steal some of their video clips to show you. It's a sling tow unit that just goes into literally the fifth wheel of any truck, no modifications needed at all, and then you can sling tow, rear tow, front tow if you're creative enough, depending on the truck. And a unit like that is exactly how I started my very first time I ever heavy towed anything, and it just kind of worked up from there. So even in the Zacklift line itself, you can start with the easy tow, then you can get the fifth wheeler, which is just the hydraulic underreach, to just greatly increase your towing capability. But that kind of step up through the product line really allows you to get into the heavy towing market, and you can build as you go from there. Step up to the fifth wheeler, and then the fifth wheeler itself is probably the most versatile, because you can buy just that fifth wheeler unit, the underreach, and then you can add parts to it to increase capability as your business grows, and then it can grow with you without having to completely replace your equipment. For a newer or smaller tow company, or a light duty tow company wanting to step into heavy, that's a very, very attractive way to go from a cost standpoint. So that is the final piece of the puzzle that puts this whole package together. An incredibly versatile setup that is just massively expanding the capabilities I have with my company and the type of jobs I can take on. So I cannot thank the guys at Zacklift enough, everyone in that shop, for just building such a beautiful piece of equipment here. It's like a work of art, and the pride each one of them takes in their work shows. The fact that their initials are on everything they build, each individual guy, shows the pride they take in it. So I am very excited to get this thing put to work. I do have 2 jobs already lined up for it. So I've been gone from home for about a week. It's Saturday now, so I'm gonna, or no, it's Friday, it's Thursday. Friday, it's Friday now. So I have 2 jobs lined up, but they're gonna wait till next week, because I just want to spend some time with the family, relax for a bit, enjoy being back home, and then we're gonna get this thing out to work. We're gonna have a lot of fun with it, and we're gonna get a lot of work done. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you're just as excited about this as I am, and thanks for sticking with me while I hinted along as what was going on without actually being able to tell you, but this is gonna be fun.